Early in the morning, August 16th, a Union Pacific manifest train was departing a yard and heading through Arkansas. The train consisted of two engines. Union Pacific recently repainted Dash 944 CW 9707 and CSX SD70 Mac F 4716. Behind were a mixed set of freight cars. The train was designated to stop at a siding around Hoxie to wait for another train, another Union Pacific manifest. The train was supposed to stop at a red signal around the end of the siding. However, the train disobeyed that signal and moved onwards. And after this, there was nothing that could be done to save the train from running into the other train. Meanwhile, in the opposite direction was the other train. This train was another manifest with two SD70Ms powering, with SD70M 5070 leading and 4530 trailing. 5070 had flared radiators, while 4530 had normal radiators. So 5070 was an F version of the SD70M. They suspected nothing, and they moved on, and were moving into Hoxie. Then, out of nowhere, the other train comes into view. There was nothing to be done other than throw on the emergency brakes, hoping to avoid a collision. But unfortunately, it was far too late to stop a horrible accident. The town wakes up to a crashing sound, and soon they find out that a collision has occurred. 4716 and 9707 were thrown off to the side, and the rest of the train just took on the rest of the impact. Meanwhile, 5070 and 4530 were thrown aside from the force of the collision, just like the other train. Meanwhile, the cars piled up in the middle, causing massive leaks. The trains consisted of center beams, hoppers, mostly hoppers, boxcars, etc. And multiple tank cars were on the ground that day, and some started to leak, and it started a fire. Luckily, it was put out before it got too big, but the engines were already done for. 9707's radiator was absolutely sheared, and the top of its cab was teared off. 4716 laid upright, but sustained lots of damage. 5070 was thrown off to the side, suffering lots of damage, including frame damage. 4530 was burned beyond repair. So this concluded that all four engines from both trains were all damaged and or burned beyond repair and scrapped. cleanup begins, and after the cleanup finishes, everyone is asking the question, who is at fault and why are they at fault? It was clearly not the crew of 5070, so they looked into crew of 9707. Although they were dead, they could find out that they had fallen asleep because they felt overworked while working at Union Pacific, and they must have fallen asleep through the siding. Then they hit Union Pacific 5070 head on, not even reacting. They died on the collision. So in conclusion, the crew of 9707 was asleep and was at fault. Apparently, one of the crew of Union Pacific 5070 actually has a YouTube channel, which I will link below in case you want to see it. He suffers from pain every day and is still living to this day, thankfully. The 4 engines were towed away for scrap, as this case ends.